What if the incredible powers and abilities we see in comics and movies weren't just fantasy, but actually possible? I am on a mission today to prove that some of your favorite heroes could actually walk among us. So number 10, the obvious choice, Batman. Batman's specific look and his endless supply of random gadgets might be hard to recreate, but the training and determination for justice to prevail are absolutely something the average person has access to. The idea of a man training with some of the greatest martial arts masters in the world and keeping himself in peak physical condition aren't really that unrealistic, especially if that person is rich and doesn't need to worry about paying bills because they are rich. The Bruce Wayne cover-up identity is also completely plausible. Paris Hilton did it. She made everyone think that she was an airhead while she was building her empire on that very persona, getting rich, and she went to the Supreme Court. An argument against IRL Batman used to be, yeah, anybody with $1 billion, determination for justice, and no therapist in sight could totally become Batman. But it's not realistic for the average man. And then DC saw that and raised you absolute Batman, an average college student with few dollars, determination for justice, and no therapist in sight. I mean, at this point, with the way things are going, I'm shocked no one has decided to become the Dark Knight again. And I do say again, because it actually kind of happened in London back in 2015. A vigilante deemed the Bromley Batman was seen on a couple occasions thwarting criminals in an all-black outfit. Of course, he didn't seem to have any themed gadgets, a batsuit armor, or shark repellent on him, but still, a man dressed in all black flexing his martial arts skills to help the vulnerable, I'm familiar with that story. Honestly, most of the Bat family could probably exist in this day and age. Number 9, Spider-Man. Spider-Man could exist in the real world, and stick with me. Okay, so the spider bite thing, that's not happening. But the idea of a highly flexible man that is strong, has really good reflexes, and wears a colorful little outfit, that is more than plausible. Just buy a ticket to Cirque du Soleil. Now, the lack of healing factor is not ideal, but the suit could just get some armor added to it or something like that. The other thing that might pose an issue is the webs. Obviously, organic webbing is not something that a real person will be able to do, and I would actually argue they shouldn't, but I raise you, not every Peter had the organic webs either. Some of them built that using science, so theoretically speaking, we could too. There is actually a guy on TikTok that I think did create his own version of web shooters that are fully functional. We might be closer to a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man than we thought. Number 8, we are sticking to the streets of New York with Daredevil. Daredevil could appear in the real world. In the Marvel Universe, Daredevil is blind and he has his other senses heightened in an accident. A truck spills a bunch of radioactive isotopes on him and boom, superhero. Of course, should that same accident happen to someone in the real world, I fear it would yield very different results, the kind of results that get a funeral home booked. However, it would not be wrong to think that someone could successfully train their body to pay extra attention to the other senses than sight. Further than that, a person could get tech advancements like hearing aids or something to artificially enhance those other senses. Matt has exceptional martial arts skills, and with the right training and teachers, this is a feat achievable by anybody. As for Matt's lawyer gig, yeah, anyone has the potential to become a really good lawyer. What? It's hard? At number 7, we have a duo because, while there are many differences between the two men, they have the same power. Green Arrow and Hawkeye. A really skilled, rich archer, that can happen. Now, I personally have used a bow and arrow, and I'm not gonna pretend like it was easy, but mastering the bow and arrow is an achievable human feat. Don't believe me? Oliver Queen, Hawkeye, and all their arrow sidekicks are all regular humans. They are ridiculously strong, talented, and focused people, but people nonetheless. Should you want to become a superhero archer, you would also need some level of scientific or engineering knowledge, because regular arrows are neat, but the tricked out arrows with little explosives on the end, those are way cooler. The most unrealistic part about all this though, is that they never seem to run out of those arrows. Number 6, Lorna the Jungle Queen. Lorna the Jungle Queen could absolutely come to life. This is kind of an obscure pick, but she's just a girl who grew up in the jungle, and I fear that is something that can absolutely happen and is happening. Hard to do, but not impossible. For anyone unfamiliar with her game, Lorna is a regular girl that forced herself to learn how to become the best hunter and fighter ever after the death of her parents. Her mother by unspecified means because it was the 50s, and her father by a lion because it was the 50s. Lorna has had opportunities to use more modern weapons like firearms, explosives, etc. She just prefers to use a spear. Honestly, I think someone like this already does exist out in the world, and I would love to meet her. Number 5, Bucky Barnes. Bucky Barnes is operating at the highest level a human can and has a healing factor, but let's be real, Bucky's special thing is his arm. The idea of an advanced prosthetic is not really out of reach anymore. Once upon a time, a robotic arm that responds perfectly to the cues from the body and is really strong and can be run through the dishwasher, Thunderbolt's reference, reference for anyone that cares, that seemed impossible. But with today's technology, we are closer than ever. They already have a prosthetic thumb ready to go. Scientists from Cambridge University successfully created a controllable prosthetic thumb in 2022, and science advances every day. What is not yet possible would be merging the robotic limb with the physical body the way that it seems to be done for Bucky. So we probably won't be getting a real-life Winter Soldier right away, so let's give it a decade and then check back in. Number 4, the Punisher. The ultimate just a guy in the Marvel Universe. It's incredible what the Punisher is able to do despite being a regular human being. No enhancements, no impenetrable skin, literally just training, conditioning, and anger. A vigilante relying on military training, firearms expertise, and tactical skills, no superpowers, just human skills and determination. He has been described as having an oddly high pain tolerance, but hey, that's just one more thing to train. While it would be a punishing experience to have to go through all the training to become the Punisher, it is probably more doable and potentially safer than some of the other Marvel heroes. Also, there is someone out there with like Punisher level marksmanship already. Do you remember that guy from the Olympics last year that showed up with no equipment, hand in the pocket, and took second place and then had everyone convinced that he didn't get first on purpose so that no one would catch on to him? If anyone on Earth could become a superhero tomorrow, it would be that man. Number 3, Black Widow. Black Widow could plausibly exist in real life because she possesses no cosmic powers, but rather is a peak human athlete and highly trained spy. Of course, she does have a version of a super soldier serum, but she would be very powerful without it, so let's just like throw that out the window. Her physical abilities, to an extent, are the result of intense training in various martial arts combined with gymnastics, acrobatics, and ballet, which are all achievable disciplines for an elite human performer. Additionally, her expertise in espionage, multiple languages, and use of advanced but realistic tech like her electrified bracelets and concealed weapons make her a highly effective operative without requiring the supernatural abilities. The concept of biochemical modification to enhance human performance, while fictional in her case, it parallels real-world research into performance-enhancing substances and training regimens. Thus, a highly skilled, physically and mentally conditioned individual like Black Widow could exist, especially as a product of specialized training and enhancement programs akin to elite military or intelligence operatives. Black Widow, and just like the entire Red Room situation in general, that could absolutely happen in real life. Would that be ethical? No, of course not. Possible though? Yes, unfortunately. Number 2, Captain America. Captain America could and has, to an extent, existed in the real world. Hear me out. We will get to the super soldier serum in a second, but really, that serum is only half of what it takes to be Captain America. More important than anything else, you just need to be a good person. And though it might not seem like it, there are good people out in the world, I promise. Captain America's determination to do what is right and for freedom to prevail no matter who he is up against are foundational for his character. Sam Wilson as Captain America proved in Brave New World that it is possible for a regular, unenhanced person to become the hero. Of course, he does have a fancy high-tech suit to protect him, but as technology continues to advance, that hardly seems like a hindrance anymore. To address the elephant in the room though, while we do not, by any means, have a super soldier serum, we do have things like steroids and other substances that artificially strengthen the body. And finally, taking the top spot, Iron Man. Iron Man could theoretically exist in real life due to rapid advancements in several key technologies that parallel those depicted in his suit. Modern powered exoskeletons are already enhance human strength and endurance, and jet suit technology enables personal flight, albeit with like limited range and duration. Lightweight, durable materials such as titanium nickel alloys are being explored to create armor that balances protection with shock absorption to safeguard the wearer. Heads-up displays and integrated control systems similar to those in current jet suits provide real-time data and navigation assistance. Although a compact, high-output power source like Tony Stark's fictional arc reactor, that remains elusive, but ongoing research in battery technology and fusion reactors hints at future possibilities. Challenges do remain though, including managing immense energy demands, heat dissipation, and protection against high g-force and impact speeds, but incremental progress in robotics, materials sciences, and energy storage suggests that a functional Iron Man-like suit could eventually be developed, especially if military and commercial efforts intensify. While the full suite of capabilities seen in the movies is still beyond reach, many components are becoming increasingly feasible, making the concept of Iron Man closer to reality than pure fantasy. And the funny thing is, we're actually getting dangerously close to a certain billionaire becoming Iron Man, and we are all just desperately hoping he doesn't.
Number 10, we have the ferocious and instantly recognizable X-Men member, Wolverine. Known for his adamantium claws and gruff demeanor, Wolverine's visual inspiration might surprise you. The actor Paul D'Amato, best known for his role as the aggressive hockey player Tim Dr. Hook McCracken in the 1977 cult classic film Slapshot, served as a key visual reference for the character. While Wolverine was initially created by Roy Thomas, Len Wein, and John Romita Sr., it was artist John Byrne who later significantly shaped the character's look. Byrne, who became a prominent figure in the X-Men comics, directly based his rendition of Wolverine on D'Amato's appearance in Slapshot. Specifically, the distinctive mutton chops that framed D'Amato's face in the movie left a lasting impression on Byrne and became a signature element of Wolverine's design. Beyond just the hairstyle, Byrne also noted D'Amato's intense gaze, referring to his crazy eyes, as another crucial aspect he incorporated into the character's look. Interestingly, D'Amato's portrayal in Slapshot wasn't just about looks. His character, Dr. Hook, was known for being volatile and aggressive, traits that strongly resonate with Wolverine's own fierce personality. This suggests that the inspiration went beyond mere physical resemblance, capturing some of the character's inner spirit as well. The connection between the actor and the comic book character became more widely known following Paul D'Amato's passing in February 2024, with numerous reports highlighting his unexpected influence on the world of comics. Byrne himself confirmed this inspiration, stating that D'Amato just had the look, he had the crazy eyes, and that's what Wolverine needs to have. This demonstrates how a specific performance and the visual presence of an actor in a particular role can unexpectedly inspire a beloved and enduring comic book character years later. The fact that D'Amato was reportedly proud of being the inspiration for Wolverine adds a heartwarming dimension to this connection between the silver screen and the comic page. Moving to number 9, we have the wise and powerful leader of the X-Men, Professor Charles Xavier. This iconic character, a telepathic mutant who founded a school for gifted youngsters, draws inspiration from not one, but two prominent real-life figures. The physical appearance of Professor X, particularly his signature bald head, was directly inspired by the Academy Award-winning actor Yul Brynner. Brynner, famous for his role as King Mongkut in The King and I, was well known for his shaved head, a look that Stan Lee, the co-creator of the X-Men, explicitly acknowledged as the basis for Professor X's appearance. Lee himself stated, "I thought of Professor X as Yul Brynner." This direct connection highlights how a recognizable physical trait of a celebrity can directly translate into the visual design of a comic book character. However, the inspiration for Professor X goes beyond mere physical resemblance. His backstory and the philosophical underpinnings of his character are widely believed to be inspired by David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel and a pivotal figure in the Zionist movement. Ben-Gurion was a renowned leader and intellectual, known for his strong convictions and his role in establishing the State of Israel. While some readers have drawn parallels between Professor X and Martin Luther King Jr., the creators themselves have pointed towards Ben-Gurion as a key influence. This connection suggests a deeper allegory within the X-Men narrative, potentially reflecting the challenges and complexities of leading a marginalized group seeking acceptance and equality, mirroring the historical context of Ben-Gurion's leadership in the formation of Israel. The separation of visual inspiration, Brynner, from the ideological inspiration, Ben-Gurion, demonstrates how comic book creators can synthesize different aspects from real individuals to create a multifaceted character. At number 8, we find Professor X's longtime adversary and sometimes ally, Magneto. This powerful mutant, who believes in mutant superiority and often resorts to extreme measures to protect his kind, also has a fascinating real-life inspiration rooted in Israeli history. During Chris Claremont's influential run on the X-Men comics, Magneto's character, particularly his commanding presence and morally complex nature, was inspired by Menachem Begin, the former Prime Minister of Israel and a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Begin's life story is particularly compelling. Before Israel's independence, he led the Irgun, a Zionist militant group, showcasing a complex and at times controversial past. Claremont himself acknowledged Begin as the inspiration for Magneto, drawing a parallel between Begin's evolution from someone considered a terrorist in 1947 to a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize 30 years later, and Magneto's own journey throughout the comics. This highlights the intention to create a nuanced villain, one whose motivations, while extreme, stem from a deep-seated desire for protection and recognition. The choice of Begin as inspiration underscores Magneto's moral ambiguity, his past actions, and his often violent methods, whilst it aimed at safeguarding mutants, frequently put him at odds with Professor X's more peaceful approach. This mirrors Begin's own complex history and the various perspectives on his actions. Claremont's deliberate mirroring of Begin's life arc and Magneto's character development demonstrates how real-world figures with significant personal and political transformations can serve as profound inspiration for fictional characters, adding layers of depth and complexity beyond simple good versus evil. The fact that both Professor X and Magneto draw inspiration from prominent figures in Israeli history further suggests a potential commentary within the X-Men narrative on power, leadership, and the pursuit of rights for a marginalized group. Landing at number 7 is a unique case where a comic book character's design directly influenced a major movie casting decision. We're talking about the modern African-American version of Nick Fury, the formidable leader of Shai-Eld in Marvel's Ultimate Universe. This revamped version of Nick Fury, who was originally depicted as a white character, was explicitly modeled after the appearance and screen persona of the iconic actor Samuel L. Jackson. This redesign occurred in the early 2000s in the Ultimates comic series, spearheaded by writers Mark Miller and artist Brian Hitch. Hitch reportedly came up with the idea of using Jackson's likeness, aiming to make the Ultimates feel more cinematic and contemporary. What makes this story particularly interesting is that Samuel L. Jackson himself was initially unaware that his likeness was being used in the comics. However, when he did find out, he was reportedly flattered by the portrayal. This ultimately led to Jackson famously playing Nick Fury in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, a role he has embraced wholeheartedly and for which he is now widely recognized. The MCU version of Nick Fury bears a striking resemblance to his Ultimate comic book counterpart, creating a fascinating instance of art imitating life, and then life imitating art right back. The decision to reimagine Nick Fury as an African-American character based on a prominent black actor like Samuel L. Jackson also reflects a broader movement towards greater diversity and representation within comic books, making the characters more reflective of a contemporary audience. Coming in at number 6 is the perpetually irascible and headline-grabbing publisher of the Daily Bugle in the Spider-Man comics, J. Jonah Jameson. Known for his booming voice and relentless smear campaigns against Spider-Man, Jameson's real-life inspiration is none other than the legendary co-creator of Spider-Man himself, Stan Lee. Stan Lee admitted that he modeled Jameson on a much grumpier and more irritable version of himself. In his own words, Lee explained, "I thought if I were a grumpy, irritable man, which I am sometimes, how would I act? And that was it. So you got me." This playful self-insertion highlights Lee's charismatic and often humorous approach to his creations. Fellow Spider-Man writers Tom DeFalco and Jerry Conway further supported this, stating that Jameson was the closest Lee ever came to portraying himself in his comics. In fact, some of the dialogue written for Jameson was even directly inspired by or taken from things Lee himself had said. Beyond just personality traits, Lee also incorporated elements from his personal life into the character, reportedly naming Jameson's wife after his own and basing his secretary on his real-life counterpart. This adds a layer of personal connection to the character, making the often outlandish Jameson feel surprisingly grounded. The creation of J. Jonah Jameson serves as a prime example of how creators can draw inspiration from their own personalities, exaggerating certain traits for comedic and narrative effect. It also shows how even seemingly unlikable characters can resonate with audiences when they possess recognizable human flaws, albeit amplified for entertainment. Reaching the halfway point at number 5 is the iconic Amazonian princess and superhero, Wonder Woman. This symbol of strength, justice, and compassion has a fascinating origin story deeply intertwined with the personal life and beliefs of her creator, William Moulton Marston. Marston based Wonder Woman on not one, but two remarkable women in his life. His wife, Elizabeth Holloway Marston, a lawyer and feminist, and their life partner, Olive Byrne. Elizabeth is even credited with suggesting the idea of a female superhero to Marston. Marston aimed to create a female character with the strength of Superman, but also the allure of a good and beautiful woman, and he found the the embodiment of these qualities in Elizabeth and Olive. Their strong and unconventional personalities heavily influenced Wonder Woman's own independence and determination. Some even believe that Wonder Woman's signature bracelets were inspired by bracelets that Olive Byrne often wore. Marston's background in psychology, particularly his work on the disk theory and his invention of an early lie detector, also played a significant role in shaping Wonder Woman's character and her universe. The Lasso of Truth, for instance, is a direct reflection of his work on lie detection. Marston's writings reveal his intention to promote a new type of woman through Wonder Woman, one who was strong, independent, and capable. This makes Wonder Woman's creation a powerful example of how personal relationships and deeply held beliefs can directly translate into a fictional character who goes on to inspire generations. Just outside the top 3 at number 4 is the trenchcoat-clad, chain-smoking, and sardonic occult detective, John Constantine. This popular anti-hero from the DC Comics universe has a surprisingly straightforward real-life inspiration for his visual appearance: the English musician Sting. The visual inspiration for John Constantine came directly from the artists Stephen R. Bissett and John Totleben, who were working with writer Alan Moore on the Swamp Thing comic series. Bissett and Totleben were fans of the Police and specifically wanted to draw a character who looked like Sting, particularly referencing his appearance in the films Brimstone and Treacle and Quadrophenia. Alan Moore, given this visual prompt, then crafted the character's personality and backstory, envisioning him as a working-class, streetwise magician, a departure from the more traditional depictions of mystics in comics. Interestingly, Sting himself is aware of his role in inspiring Constantine's look and has reportedly been flattered by the connection, even referring to the character as his brother. This makes Constantine's visual inspiration one of the most direct and acknowledged connections between a real person and a comic book character. The story highlights how a specific visual idea from artists can be the starting point for the creation of a beloved character, with the writer then building the narrative around that initial image. Cracking into the top 3 at number 3 is Batman's most iconic and visually striking villain, the Joker. His terrifying grin and chaotic nature have made him a fixture in popular culture, and the inspiration for his unforgettable appearance comes from a classic of silent cinema. The primary visual inspiration for the Joker's permanent, horrifying smile was Conrad Veitz's portrayal of Gwynplaine in the 1928 silent film The Man Who Laughs. All 3 individuals credited with creating the Joker, Bob Kane, Bill Finger, and Jerry Robinson, have acknowledged the profound influence of Veitz's character on the Clown Prince of Crime's design. Reportedly, Bill Finger showed Bob Kane a photograph of Veitz as Gwynplaine and declared, "Here's the Joker." The Man Who Laughs, based on a novel by Victor Hugo, tells the story of a man whose face is surgically disfigured into a perpetual grotesque smile. This haunting image clearly resonated with the creators looking to craft a memorable and menacing adversary for Batman. The Joker's swept-back hair in early comic book appearances may have also been inspired by Veitz's look in the film. This connection demonstrates the endearing power of visual storytelling from early cinema, and how a striking image can serve as the foundation for one of the most recognizable villains in comic book history. Soaring into the number 2 spot is the Armored Avenger, Iron Man, also known as Tony Stark. This brilliant billionaire industrialist and inventor has a real-life inspiration that perfectly aligns with his image: the legendary business magnate, inventor, and aviator Howard Hughes. Stan Lee himself admitted that he had Howard Hughes in mind when creating Tony Stark. Lee described Hughes as one of the most colorful men of our time, highlighting his status as an inventor, adventurer, ladies' man, and even a bit of a nutcase. The defining characteristics of Tony Stark, his immense wealth, his inventive genius, his adventurous spirit, and his later struggles with personal demons like alcoholism, all mirror aspects of Hughes' complex and often eccentric life. While Hughes primarily served as the inspiration for Stark's personality and background, artists Don Heck and Jack Kirby reportedly also looked to the swashbuckling movie star Errol Flynn for visual inspiration in creating the character. This combination of a real-life tycoon's persona and a Hollywood heartthrob's looks helped to create the charismatic and compelling figure of Tony Stark. The inspiration from Howard Hughes underscores how comic book creators often draw from prominent contemporary figures, particularly those who embody both great success and notable eccentricities. And finally, taking the top spot as the comic book character with perhaps the most intriguing and multifaceted real-life inspirations is the Dark Knight himself, Batman. The Caped Crusader's creation involved drawing from both fictional and historical figures to forge the enduring legend of Bruce Wayne. The core concept of Batman, a wealthy playboy by day who transforms into a masked vigilante by night, operating from a secret cave, was largely inspired by the character of Zorro, particularly the swashbuckling portrayal by Douglas Fairbanks in the 1920 film The Mark of Zorro. Early drawings of Batman even bore a resemblance to Fairbanks. This highlights the influence of early adventure films on the burgeoning superhero genre, but the real-life inspirations for Batman go deeper than just a masked predecessor. The name of Batman's alter ego, Bruce Wayne, is a combination of two distinct historical figures. The first name, Bruce, comes from Robert the Bruce, the legendary Scottish king who led Scotland during the First War of Scottish Independence and is revered for his bravery and determination. The last name, Wayne, was taken from Anthony Wayne, an American Revolutionary War officer known for his daring and sometimes reckless exploits, earning him the nickname Mad Anthony Wayne. The combination of these two strong historical figures, one a symbol of national independence and the other a daring military leader, subtly reinforces the themes of justice, rebellion against tyranny, and unwavering determination that are central to Batman's character. This intricate web of inspiration, blending fictional archetypes with the weight of real history, makes Batman a truly compelling example of how reality can fuel the most imaginative creation.
In the trailer released last week for the new Captain America movie, Captain America Brave New World, a crowd member attacks Harrison Ford's newly elected President Ross, who also happens to be a white male presidential figure with white hair. Now, why would we be getting a sense of deja vu? Could it be that this happened in the real world last week as well? Let the record show, this trailer dropped a single day before the real life parallel. It's no surprise this has caught the attention of Marvel fans, with one writing on Twitter, in the trailer that released yesterday, the president played by Harrison Ford is fired at by a hired killer that is being mind controlled. Now, I don't think the real life scenario was identical, mind you, but an argument could be made. It's left some folks arguing that this could be predictive programming, a conspiracy theory claiming that the government, the Illuminati, or the elites are using mass media as a method of mind control. This is done by sending out hidden messages to brainwash viewers and make us more accepting of planned events in the future. Let the record show, this movie doesn't hit theaters until February 14th of next year, but it's still pretty wild. During the 2016 election, a lot of folks noticed parallels between reality and Captain America Civil War, and Jimmy Kimmel had plenty to say about it. I swear we will indeed talk about other Marvel properties today. Just wait. In Kimmel's words, both of them feature friends who are now enemies. They both feature powerful men and women who are also cartoon characters, and there's a lot of interest in both. In his version, the freedom-loving Captain America is Bernie Sanders, railing against billionaires and big money. Billionaire industrialist Iron Man is billionaire capitalist Orange Cheeto, talking about how rich he is and how they both favor intense regulations for specific populations. Hillary Clinton is Scarlet Witch, and Ben Carson is Spiderman. Just trying to be involved, eager beaver. 2016 actually had at least 3 films come out that beautifully conveyed exactly what was going down, politically speaking. 4 if you count Hell or High Water, said to dramatically depict the plight of working Americans who, feeling ignored by Obama, would soon vote for the big billionaire. 13 Hours kicked off the year with a searing indictment of whoever it was in our government that prevented our military apparatus from providing the support that other folks needed. When the other 2 movies, both superhero films, came out, well, they perfectly paralleled a certain feud raging in the political sphere. Of course, they came out during the heat of primary season, and frankly, the Democrat side was pretty placid and quiet. At least compared to the stuff going down on the other end. Now, these 2 films were of course Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Captain America, Civil War. Just to be clear, the clash that reverberated throughout the conservative movement wasn't a point-for-point parallel to those cinematic clashes per se, but the issues raised in those films, more blatantly in Civil War, point to a rift long simmering in conservatism, beginning roughly in the Bush era. Tensions simmered, then more or less settling down in the Obama years. The Tea Party serving to reconcile things, more or less. It took the clashes of 2016 for the tensions to erupt once again, albeit for somewhat different reasons, though they arguably do connect. And remember, in The Winter Soldier, we already saw how Hydra took S.H.I.E.L.'s noble agenda of security and corrupted it into tyranny, just as Obama took the Bush-Cheney, Rumsfeld security apparatus and corrupted it into, well, what we know today, forcing us to make strange bedfellows with, you know, some folks kind of like Edward Snowden. After Bucky was first captured, Cap even notes he's willing to relent, providing the Accords get amended. But then he quickly changes his mind once he hears that Tony is keeping Wanda under house arrest. Such is the libertarian perspective, that they give up essential liberty for temporary security, which, Yikes! The question, of course, is what is essential? In a way, it's a tension that existed since the founding of the United States. The Team Iron Man of the day was the Federalists, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton. The Team Cap was the Democratic Republicans, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Both teams instrumental in the formation of the founding principles. Both sides heroic, noble, and American. One side just emphasized security and stability a bit more. The other one was more centered on liberty and autonomy. The left, as we know it today, only really showed up near the end of the 19th century, with the progressives. Here's a doozy that's actually been confirmed. Marvel said they removed a plotline from The Falcon and the Winter Soldier focused on the heroes rushing to stop a fast-spreading disease due to its similarities with real-world events. So one major criticism of this show was just like how poorly they handled the show's villains and the anti-heroes. John Walker is depicted in an overly antagonistic light, yet the material itself is actually far too sympathetic for this to work. Likewise, the Flag Smashers were seen as ill-defined, namely in their goals and what they wished to accomplish. On top of that, they were rarely the threat they were made out to be. So with the Flag Smashers' deadliest act, an intentional viral mega crisis, removed from the series midway through, it kind of explains why certain elements of the plot seemed to not make sense. Since the series wanted audiences to sympathize with the Flag Smashers, unleashing a virus might have been a step too far. Current events or not. The show had a number of setbacks due to real-life problems. The political thriller starring Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan was a globe-spanning adventure involving a number of complex locations. And in a world that was restricted from travel, you can understand why that would be a yikes. Since some of the series was already filmed before the big global event, eagle-eyed fans can find elements of the storyline in the series that aired. When Sam and Bucky face the Flag Smashers in a thrilling sequence on a convoy of trucks, Bucky is clearly seen walking past containers emblazoned with signs that point to that missing storyline. The show keeps what these medicines were for kind of vague, and it worked as part of the new motivation of the so-called extremist group to bring supplies to people who were displaced after the blip returned those Thanos snapped away. Another possible remaining element of the pathogen plot comes from the character of Mama Donya, played by an incredible actor who appeared in just a few scenes. But it was a person who was very important to the series. She dies from an unnamed illness, and fans believe this was an element of that pathogen storyline. Either she was an unintended victim, or more likely, her death is what inspired the Flag Smashers to use biological warfare. Whether the storyline was removed for creative reasons or because it was in poor taste, it is just one of the ways that the real-life parallels affected Marvel Studios' plans after Endgame. After introducing Gravik as a villain with a purpose in the premiere, Secret Invasion failed to justify why the shapeshifter Skrull poses such a threat to humanity. Episode after episode, this guy lets his emotions get the best of him, while making rushed decisions that don't help his world domination plan. Like most of the series' Skrulls, from time to time, Gravik even forgets he can shapeshift. Apparently the show was heavily refilmed and edited to avoid seeming like too explicit a parallel to the real-life Eastern European invasion. I have no idea what it originally looked like, and that might have been a wise call at the time, but the show bears all the signs of something really quickly re-edited. Multiple plotlines that go nowhere, a bizarrely inconsistent emotional core. We've got Fury and Talos' friendship, then we get Talos and his daughter, and then you get this big emotional scene as Fury and his wife, who we never met until 3 episodes prior, and a bafflingly rushed ending that is in extreme tonal conflict with everything else. But something else that survived the redos and the edits, a persecuted minority, driven out from everywhere by the pursuing forces, tries to integrate with the local human populace, but fearing rejection, intentionally and successfully infiltrates highly powerful institutions and positions in complete secret, with the goal of replacing the locals? Well, if you're going to replace the Skrulls and the humans with some other very choicey and controversial ideas, and this is pretty much exactly what extreme, conspiracy nuts think is happening. Certain folks are trying to replace people by seizing power in secret and pushing their agenda. And nobody at Marvel caught this? They describe this show as paranoid, but it doesn't just invoke an atmosphere of paranoia. It is kind of a parable taken from the most paranoid and hateful minds imaginable. I hope it was unintentional, but that is a lot of overlap for a coincidence.